Allan is a preeminent cancer surgeon at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Hollywood, California, where he treats some of the most challenging cancer patients, that is, those with multiple malignancies. He passionately devotes his time and energy to his patients and to the families and friends who are navigating the challenges of the disease of their loved ones. Allan is sharing his knowledge and experience through the acclaimed textbook, Principles and Practices in Surgical Oncology, and he has also been honored for his teaching, research, scholarship, and compassionate bedside manner. As a nominator said, he is deeply, passionately, and irrefutably committed to his patients and consistently serves as an advocate for them. I am pleased to present Allan Silberman with the Alumni Fellow Award.
Well, I want to thank President Barron, Dean Kavanagh, and his staff, Dawn Ebbs and Joyce Matthews, for this really prestigious award. It's an honor to be really included with this exceptional group. I want to thank my wife, Kathy. We've been married for 37 years. I wouldn't be able to have a successful surgical career without her love and support. I was walking around the campus today, and I walked down College Avenue, and it was such a pleasure. It gave me so many memories, brought back so many memories of when I was here at Penn State. It was fantastic. My only regret tonight is that my previous professor, the late Dr. Richard McCarl, he couldn't be here. He's what gave me the impetus to go into oncology. He taught me about intermediary metabolism, protein metabolism, carbohydrate metabolism, lipid metabolism, and I learned about various chemicals that inhibit these pathways. Well, it turns out that those chemicals are today's chemotherapeutic agents. So he really got me interested in oncology. He taught me about an enzyme called tyrosine kinase, TKIs. Today, we have these TKIs, tyrosine kinase inhibitors, which are important drugs that are used. They're brand new drugs, really, that are used in oncology. For example, there's a drug called Gleevec. It's used in certain types of leukemia and also in GI stromal tumors, GIST tumors, which we take care of a lot of these types of patients. There's a new drug out called Sutent, which is a very important drug because it's one of the first drugs that's been shown to be helpful in metastatic kidney cancer. And another TKI is Ibrance, which is used in sarcomas and in breast cancer. So Dr. McCarl really got me started in the area of oncology. When I was a medical student, my brother Howard, he was a surgical resident, and he got me interested in surgery. So I put the two together, and I became a surgical oncologist. Now, my practice is unique. As Dr. Barron mentioned, we take care of all different kinds of malignancies. The trend today is a little different. The trend today is focused care. In other words, you take care of one particular item. The problem is some of these tumors don't know where one specialty ends and the next one begins. Anyway, we take care of all these different kind of problems, and what has happened is I've accumulated almost 1,000 patients now with multiple primary malignancies. In other words, I might have operated on the patient 20 years ago for colon cancer. Now they're back with breast cancer. In fact, we have one fellow, he has 6 primary malignancies. We have many patients with 3 and 4. When you look at it on the surface, they don't seem to be related. They're related. These are genetically related, and what our research group is doing is a genomic analysis of these patients with multiple malignancies to see if we can find some mutation that may predispose them to getting all these different tumors. Now, another thing that's very interesting about this group is they're survivors. You don't get the second tumor unless you were cured of the first. And sometimes the chemotherapy and radiation for the first is the reason for the second. Those things are carcinogenic in a small percentage of patients. So that's very, very interesting, and that's where we're headed in oncology. Now, before I leave today, I want to tell you about my first day of medical school, which says a lot about our Penn State education. Now, I went to medical school in Boston. This is in the late 60s, early 70s. Boston was the mecca of medicine. Everybody wanted to go to Boston for their training. And the reason was, well, at the Peter Bent Brigham, there was Dr. Joseph Murray. He just won a Nobel Prize for doing the first kidney transplant. Across the river at MIT was David Baltimore. He just won a Nobel Prize for discovering the enzyme reverse transcriptase. Now, this enzyme is why RNA can go backward to DNA. Now, he won that Nobel Prize in around 1970. Well, skip ahead 10 years, we have the AIDS epidemic. That enzyme was the basis for the treatment of HIV, which is an RNA virus. So if you could inhibit his enzyme, the HIV would not be able to replicate. So all the original drugs that were used for HIV were because of Dr. Baltimore's discovery of that enzyme. Anyway, so everybody wanted to be in Boston for their training. Now, there were 3 medical schools in Boston, BU, where I went, Tufts, and Harvard. Now, the makeup of my class was as follows. About a third of the class came from Harvard. Another third were all the other Ivy League schools. And the last third were high school students who were put into this accelerated BA MD program. They were geniuses. And then there was me from Penn State. Now, I can tell you, the summer before I began, I was pretty nervous. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to compete with all these Ivy League kids. It was really scary, actually. Anyway, the first day of school is about to begin. The course is neurosciences, and it was held at the old Boston City Hospital amphitheater. Now, I don't know if you saw the movie Coma, but there was a scene in there, the Boston City Hospital amphitheater. Anyway, the door to the entry to the place was right next to where the professor was. And I was about 30 seconds late. I couldn't find the place. And I walked in the door. The professor's already professing. The lights are down. The slides are going. So I had to sit right in the front row. I get my notebook out. I get my pencil out. I'm ready to take notes. I can't understand a word this guy is saying. It wasn't his diction. He had perfect diction. It wasn't his accent. He didn't have an accent. I just didn't understand the words. It was like a foreign language. I couldn't take any notes. So I put my pencil down. I started looking around the room. All the Harvards and the Yales, they're writing furiously. I said, oh my God, I'm going to flunk out of here. My worst nightmare is coming to fruition here. Well, I went home that night. I'm sick. I am sick. Now, what's a little Jewish kid from Philadelphia do when they're sick? You call your mother. I said, Ma. Ma, the Harvards and the Yales are writing everything down. I can't write anything down. I'm going to flunk out. She says to me, don't worry about it. Eat a bagel, she says to me. I said, Ma, I'm not that hungry right now. I'm going to flunk out. She says, don't worry about it. Eat a bagel. Anyway, a couple of weeks go by, and I get to know my classmates. Guess what? None of them had any idea what this guy was talking about. I don't know what they were doing. They were doodling or drawing, but whatever they was doing had nothing to do with neurosciences. And I realized right then and there, guess what? My Penn State education was just as good as any of these Ivy Leaguers. And guess what? It was a hell of a lot cheaper. And guess what? I had much more fun than they had. And guess what? Our football team is way better than any of their football teams. So, Dr. Barron, thank you very much for that.